Let's deep delve into the situation. We have political analyst James M. Dorsey joining us live from Singapore. James, thank you so much once again, sparing your time and joining us.
Always a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Well, we have been talking about what is going on in Gaza, and let's start with UK signaling it could join the Friends, recognizing a Palestinian state at the UN General Assembly this September. Many see this as a long overdue step towards justice for Palestinians. How crucial do you think this move is, and in holding Israel accountable for decades of occupation and in advancing real progress towards Palestinian statehood?
It's long overdue, and in the case of Britain, shouldn't be conditional. Neither should the French. The Palestinians have a right to self-determination. That right to self-determination should be recognized. Having said that, the French and British move essentially puts pressure or increased pressure on Israel, and in many ways also puts pressure on U.S. President Donald Trump. But beyond that, it's symbolic. It doesn't change anything on the ground. It will only change things on the ground if and when Western supporters of Israel, or Western countries that are now increasingly becoming critical of Israel, apply real on-the-ground measures, sanctions, boycotts, to pressure Israel to respond. I think the one potential optimistic sign in all of this is that the Israeli parliament went on recess on the 27th of July, and therefore Prime Minister Netanyahu runs less risk in his government being overthrown or collapsed by the ultra-nationalist parties who oppose a ceasefire and oppose humanitarian aid flowing into Gaza. At the same time, it's interesting that certainly Bezalel Smotrich, the ultra-nationalist finance minister, has made clear that he was not going to resign from the cabinet because of the concessions on the flow of humanitarian aid. And that's a signal that the ultra-nationalists ultimately may opt to keep the government in power, even if there are policies they disagree with.
Well, that is the quite thing that is going on right now. So let's talk about France as well, because as you have mentioned, it was long overdue, but France has officially recognized Palestine and helped shape a joint call with Germany and the United Kingdom for Israel to allow unfettered aid into Gaza. Could this signal a broader European shift? Why did it happen now? And what might that mean for the diplomatic pressure on Israel? Do you think that it is really important, or it is going to just be thrown under the rug and be forgotten like it did before?
Just to be clear, the French have said they will recognize the state of Palestine and will do so in September during the United Nations General Assembly. I think what one really has to look at beyond the symbolic steps of the Brits and the French is what the European Union does. There are an increasing number of EU members who favor a suspension of the trade agreement and the association agreement with Israel. That's a move that the EU does not need a unanimous vote on, and has threatened to do so if Israel does not start significantly allowing the entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza and moves towards a ceasefire and an end to the war. That, I think, is going to have far more weight at this point in practical terms than the recognition of the state of Palestine, which is not to say that the recognition by France and the United Kingdom should not go forward.
Well, the UN agencies, including IPC, warned that famine thresholds have been already reached in Gaza. What does that imminent famine declaration mean, and what urgent interventions are needed to avert widespread death?
Obviously, it's an indication of just how worrisome and how concerning the situation in Gaza is. As a matter of principle, there should be no restrictions whatsoever on the flow of basic humanitarian goods like food and medical services. I think it's important also that for the first time in the last 24 hours, we've heard U.S. President Donald Trump use the word starvation, and that's significant. He's also said that his focus is going to be on increasing the flow of aid into Gaza. Clearly, he sides with the Israelis in wanting to circumvent the UN infrastructure that already exists and is proven in terms of its efficiency and effectiveness in Gaza. But nonetheless, the fact that he now uses the word starvation and sees the flow of humanitarian aid as a priority is significant and is also a break with what the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has been saying, who has since reiterated that there is no starvation in Gaza.
Well, lastly, yes, I was actually going to ask you about that. So we have been seeing so intense situation that is unfolding in Gaza, that hunger being weapons that is being used against the Palestinians. 5-month-old babies are dying back to back because of starvation. And Israeli Prime Minister has the audacity to say that it is a lie. That is not what is happening, that Gazans are not hungry. How do you think that the international community responds to such thing? We know that because instead of being friends with him, he is friends with him, but Donald Trump managed to say that the footage of the children dying from hunger seems to be very real, and the Israeli Prime Minister is at the wrong. But saying that he is wrong, does it going to help anything?
Well, I think what we've seen as a result of the horrible images that are emerging from Gaza, we've seen a groundswell of criticism in Western nations of Israel. The latest polls in the United States put support for Israel in the public domain at historic lows. And there's no way that Netanyahu and the Israelis can compete with these images coming out of Gaza, and obviously the witness statements, the assessments by international organizations, including the United Nations. So Israel's fighting an uphill battle, certainly an uphill public relations battle that it is incapable of winning.
Well, thank you so much, James. Yes, the footage is coming back to back. We wish it was fake, but it's as real as the day. So we hope that the resolution comes soon enough, that babies do not die from hunger at the old time of 2025. This is not the time or place in the world that should happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you. Now let's continue with our news. An expected